Well, hi! Oh my God, I'm so excited you're here. My name is Jess. Welcome back to the No Way, Tell Me Everything podcast. I feel like I'm just getting more aggressive with each episode, but that's kind of my personality, so hope you're here for it. Today is a solo episode, so I hope that's okay with you. If it's not, please don't tell me because I don't care. This is what we're doing. I'm going to be very honest. It's going to get rambly, I feel like, because I've been getting a nudge to do this episode. But when I ask what I should talk about, it's a very broad topic. So knowing me, my ADHD and my guides, it's probably going to jump around. But hopefully it jumps around in a meaningful way for whatever it is that you freaking need to hear. So without further ado, just the tip. The segment where I try to give you just the tip and usually end up giving you the whole thing. We're going to talk about one tip for shadow working, which you may have heard of before, but it's one of my favorite ways to do shadow work. And shadow work is one of my favorite things in the whole world. While we do that, I'm going to not do any crafts today because I don't have any crafts to do and I don't want to do something just to do something. But I thought what I would kind of talk about is my wound healing salve that I use, that I gift to many friends, and that I use for myself and my family. And so I'll just open up the episode talking about that, because if you enjoy making any sort of easy craft and you want to make your own skincare or wound care in this case, this is a really easy way to do it. And I've dabbled in explaining it on the first couple episodes, so hopefully I can do it again. All right, let's talk about it. So when you're doing anything with herbs, you have to extract the good nutrients that are in them. And there's a couple different ways to do them. I prefer to do the long method because when you cook some of the herbs, you're going to break down some of the compounds that are useful. So it's not that it's not useful, but if you have the time to do a slow method, a slow extraction method, I would always recommend doing that. So I will go over the slow extraction method. If you don't have time, because it's like anywhere from, I usually have mine around like 20, 21 days. Yeah, 3 weeks. And do math there. If you don't have time for that, you can do the slow cooking method, but rock a Google on that. That's just, I don't know how long I don't want to be quoted on how long you're supposed to do that because it's not the method that I use. Anywho, you need to pick a carrier oil. I would say you can do different types of oils for different parts of your body. And if that's the case, then you're going to want to change what kind of carrier oil you use. Because depending on your skin type, if you have oily skin or whatever, you wouldn't want to put like a coconut oil on your face. It'll probably make you maybe break out or be really greasy. But something like an apricot oil or a vitamin E oil, which is really good for skin, would be really good if it's like a wound healing or like acne healing oil or salve that you want to use. That would work really well. If it's for body, I usually use like jojoba or, again, vitamin E oil. Or there I can also use like for skin and hair that's on my body. No, that's not what I meant to say. For hair on my head and skin on my body, I a lot of the times will use coconut oil. And I'll tell you why. Because if it's going to be a salve, so the difference between an oil is liquid, a salve is usually mixed with beeswax, so it's more like cream or a balm. Then you have to mix those two things. But if I use coconut oil and it's on a place that's not going to get clogged pores and stuff like that, I don't have to use any beeswax because when it cools down to room temperature, it will naturally solidify. So when I do my anti-dandruff and hair growth oil, I use coconut oil. It's also really good for your hair. But we're talking about the wound healing one here, so I'll just scroll back to that. So for this one, I used vitamin E oil because vitamin E is also really good for skin healing. So if you can get your hands on vitamin E oil, I would recommend using that as your carrier oil. What I do is I put it in a mason jar. I don't really measure, so I'm not going to give you measurements. If you want to find measurements, again, I'm sure you can rock a Google on that. But I kind of just like put in what I got. Maybe, like I'm trying to think of like how much it looks like. And if I'm thinking about it in my head, it probably looks like a cup. Maybe half cup, do whatever. But you want to definitely have enough oil that you're going to cover the amount of herbs that you use. That's the most important thing, because if you don't cover the herbs, they can, again, kind of go bad, get mold, and then you don't want to use any of that, especially not on an open wound. So there is a hygienic aspect to it. You want to make sure that the oil is covering the herbs. So I put chamomile in there. I'll just tell you everything I put in there. I dumped some chamomile flowers, some lavender buds. I put in horsetail. I put in dittany, calendula, sage, immortelle, which is also helichrysum, yarrow. Those are all the things that I put in there. And I'm going to quickly go through a couple reasons why. If you have no other herb, but you want to make a healing oil or salve, I'm going to call it balm. Saying the word salve is actually really annoying to say. You have to constantly enunciate the L. But make a healing balm. Calendula was the word we were looking for. Calendula is what I would recommend as the number one most important because it is traditionally used very much for actual wound healing, so cuts and sores. Arnica is another one, but that's more like bruises and stuff. But calendula is really good. It's antimicrobial, Jesus, take the wheel. I am having, do you know what? It's great. It just means I'm connected to the universe because I can't get a word out. Use calendula as your main one. It's beautiful. It's really, really good for wound healing. It'll help make sure that whatever you put it on heals up nice and quick. Chamomile and lavender are for anti-inflammation and calming properties. So that's why I put them in there. This is kind of like an all-purpose. The way I described it to the last person I gave it to was like, if you watched My Big Fat Greek Wedding, this is like the Windex of healing balms because you just use it on everything. Acne, great. Open sore, great. I use it on bruises. I use it on redness. I use it on bug bites. Like you can literally just use it for anything and it has a lot of different stuff in there. So we use chamomile and lavender for inflammation. Then yarrow as well. My friend yarrow, my favorite one. Use that in everything. It's called the healer in the ancient witcheries. So I use that one as well because it's a healing balm. The other ones have intentional properties. I'm sure that they also have medicinal properties, but that's not why I use them. And so I'll tell you the intentions that I put with them when I ask them to work with me in this healing balm. Again, if you don't want to make this a witchy thing and it's just a homeopathic thing, just chuck your herbs in. They'll do the job. I like to put intentions into it because for me, it is very much a witchcraft. So when I put in the ingredients, I tell them, ask them to work with me in the way that I want them to. So when I'm adding the chamomile and lavender, I'm putting in the energy and the intention of calming, to calm inflammation, to calm redness. When I put in the calendula, it's for quick healing and for fighting against bacteria. When I put in horsetail, I'm putting it in as a, what is the word? Not resiliency. Pat, I'd like to buy the letter P. Nope, that wasn't it. This is not good radio. Guides. Constitution. It was a C, not a P. Constitution. So I use this for strengthening this balm for my whole body is buzzing. My guides are like, what are you even doing right now? I use it for strengthening the balm. So like amping it up. And then dittany, which we've spoken about very quickly before on one episode. It was traditionally used a lot with love, but it is also used with self-care. So I put that one in there. I put in sage for protection. So if there's any energetic ties to whatever's going on that you're using this for, clear that crap out. Immortelle, helichrysum, little yellow flower. It literally means immortal in French. So I use that again as an intention of healing this wound. So I put all that stuff in there, make sure that the oil is covering everything, give it a good swirl with a wooden spoon and put it in a dark place with a lid on I put it in there for a total of 21 days, 3 weeks, but I take it out maybe like every 6 days and stir it again and make sure that the herbs are covered by the oil. So you do that. After 21 days, take the oil, get some cheesecloth. If you don't have cheesecloth, which is fair, you can use a coffee filter or a tea filter, or what I used to use a lot is a tea towel, just something that you can strain it through, and you want it to have a really tight weave because you don't want, it's not the end of the world if some of the herbs come through, but you kind of don't want that. So use that, put it in a bowl or whatever, chuck the oil with the herbs inside of it. If you're using a tea towel or cheesecloth, you're going to want to ball it up and wrap it and then just keep squeezing it in that ball, like keep twisting and squeezing until you get all the oil out that you can. And then you can throw out the herbs or put them back into your garden or whatever you'd like to do with them. Really, I'm sure there's other uses that I'm just not imagining right now, but then you have your oil. And if you want to make a balm or a salve, you can mix it with beeswax. So you'll have to melt the beeswax and then combine the melted beeswax with the oil and then let it cool to room temperature and it will become a balm. How balmy you want it is up to you. If you do like a 1-to-1 ratio, it's going to be pretty gloopy, like pretty balmy. If you do like a 2-to-1 ratio, weight-wise, I should say, weight ratio, it'll be thicker. But you don't want to put too much beeswax, in my opinion, because it does get too hard and then like you have to like melt it in your hands, which you can do. It's not the end of the world, but I like a creamier texture to my balms. Is it even really a balm if it's not creamy? I don't know. Anywho, that was Jess's useless story time, but I hope you make the self balm oil because it is actually really nice and it smells amazing. So try it out. Make your own creams and stuff and have fun and get crafty if it calls to you. It's really just like a no stakes fun way to connect to Mother Earth and her bounty in a lovely way. All right, let's do just the tip. Shadow work. All right, you probably have heard about shadow work, unless you haven't. You probably have. This is going to be the most ridiculous episode. I'm in a goofy ass mood. So shadow work is basically, in the most simplest way that I can imagine it, it is looking at the shadow parts of yourself, or that was not the simplest way that I could describe it. It's looking at the undesirables, quote unquote, if you will, parts of yourself that you have split off. Let me try to explain it a bit more because I feel like shadow work is one of those things where until you kind of start doing it and see what I'm talking about, it just sounds so ridiculously woo-woo and out there. But if you look at internal family systems, for example, which is a psychological thing, so out of the spiritual world, there are parts of ourselves that we exile or banish based on a lot of times things that we've been told are not desirable about ourselves. If you really like making sure that you look pretty or something as a woman, we've all been there, that someone tells you you're being vain or conceited or something. So then you might kind of split off that part of yourself that really finds that enjoyable, that really finds that fulfilling to make themselves look nice in the way that they like to do that. And then you might also end up looking at other women who do that and calling them vain and calling them conceited because that's what you've learned you should do with that type of trait. Like that's an undesirable trait. So you create like a version of yourself that doesn't like those things. You might still get dressed up and look nice, but not too nice or not in the way that actually makes you happy. You have to stay within your lane, right? So then you create this shadow version of yourself or this internal part. Or maybe you were told that you talk too much or you are too much. And so you dampen that side of yourself and you split that part off from yourself. And you imagine all of these parts that you constantly are splitting off. And we all do it throughout our whole lives. You will create a version of yourself that you feel will get the most love and acceptance. Unless you're a unicorn who doesn't have those kind of societal conditioning issues from a young age, in which case, congratulations, I'm super jealous that you didn't. But most of us are going to live a life where we live a very specialized, created version of ourselves. And ultimately, it's not healthy for you. And you won't be able, if you ever go around feeling like you're not quite whole or you don't belong or there's something missing, a lot of times that comes from the fact that we are not living as our whole selves. And ultimately, if you really want to live an authentically happy life, you're able to express yourself in the ways that actually bring you joy and live lives, live your life in the way that actually brings you joy. You have to start to integrate these parts back into yourself because when you came to Earth, who you are is who you're meant to be. But society doesn't always accept that version of us, as we all know. So you will create a version of yourself that is acceptable, that does fit in because fitting in and belonging is safety and love. But ultimately, it's harmful to your happiness, to your sense of fulfillment, to your expression. So what shadow work aims to do is look at these kind of parts of ourselves that need to be reintegrated back into us. The thing with shadow work is some people are scared of it because there is a bit of a scary idea that if you reintegrate this part of yourself, will you be less accepted? Will you receive less love? Maybe there's a part of yourself that you don't like still, and you don't want that to be a part of your personality. And I think there's two important things to that. The first one is that a lot of times you'll find that whatever way you're feeling towards a certain trait that you have or characteristic is not how you actually feel about it. It's how you've been conditioned to feel about it, which is a completely different thing. So you will find as you do the shadow work that actually you love that part of yourself, because that part of yourself allows you to have certain opportunities or protects you in certain situations or makes you feel really confident. And without that side, it's all either false bravado or you're ending up being a people pleaser all the time. Like, whatever that part is fulfilling or should be fulfilling for you is missing. So a lot of times you're scared of it because you're carrying still this conditioning around it. And once you're able to release that conditioning or that belief and figure out how to reintegrate it, then you find that you feel more whole. And this sense of I need to belong somewhere, it doesn't really matter. You don't need to belong. You need to be yourself. And the people that appreciate that version of yourself will be attracted to you. So there's that one thing. The other thing is that what you'll often find with those shadow versions of yourself, and again, you can get as woo-woo as you like with this. I go way woo-woo. I go full spiritual. My shadow parts of myself are literal. I see them as versions of myself. And a lot of times they come to me as when that shadow version was created. And I'll give you an example in a little bit. But you can also stay in the psychological side of it, of this is just a character or a trait or a behavior or something like that. Whatever works for you to do the work, I think, is the important thing. But a lot of times what you'll find is this version of you that you don't want to integrate, let's say like bitchiness or something, like you can be a bitch. This is from my own experience. What I found out is there is a way to integrate that side of myself that makes me stronger without it meaning that I put that on other people or that it's not deserved in that moment. And also a lot of the times these parts are also connected to our inner child. So if you don't integrate and express them, they're going to show up at the worst points. So again, I'll stick with the bitchiness thing. When I was going through life suppressing that strong side of myself because I had been told quite often that I was being a bitch or I was being bitchy, what that ended up doing was making me everyone's doormat or people pleasing, because I did not want to be seen as bitchy because I thought that that was undesirable. When I worked on understanding that part of myself and realizing that that part of myself is my protection of self, that I don't have to integrate it in some of the ways I had expressed it previously, because some of the ways I had expressed it previously were coming from a wounded inner child who just wanted to have a voice, and it came out in not nice ways. Once I integrated that side of myself back in and gave her a home and a voice to be heard, but not necessarily expressed, I was able to become a stronger version of myself, because when she spoke up, I listened, that there was something going on externally in the way that I was maybe being treated or witnessing something that was not sitting right with me, because someone was being taken advantage of, or I was, for example. When I heard that, I didn't react in the way she wanted to react, because that is an unhealthy way to react. But I understood that there was something not right here that wasn't sitting right with me. And then I was able to express it in a more emotionally stable, mature way and have a desirable outcome. So I don't think you need to be scared of doing shadow work, because ultimately it is always up to you how and if you integrate these parts of yourself. But it does give you a better understanding of who you are as a whole person. And so one of the ways that I do shadow work is whenever I get triggered or something comes up that I can feel is not coming from necessarily me, or I have a very strong reaction to something, I will get a journal out. Again, this is for me, for if you want to take a walk and think about it or something else, it doesn't matter, but you have to do the reflection. You literally just sit with that part of yourself and give it a voice. So I do a lot of shadow work when I'm flying, because I'm very aware that my fear of flying has nothing to do with the actual rational part of the plane, as many other people's do. But it feels very complicated in that there are parts of myself, many, many, many different parts that are feeding into this fear of flying. So it's a long process of talking to each version. And a different version comes up every single time I fly. And I can feel it also. There's a different type of anxiety attached to that. And so when I was on this recent flight that I did, I was having a lot of anxiety, like more so than normal. And so I went inside of myself. I just closed my eyes. I took some deep breaths. I have my happy place that's inside of my meditation palace, head, heart, whatever resonates with you. But if you create a happy place, I have my happy place. I went there, and all of my other reintegrated shadow parts always are there. They were there, but there was also a new one. So I went over to her and I sat with her and I held her and witnessed her while she was upset and told me what was going on. And it was very shocking, because the thing about shadow work also is that you never quite know what's going to come up. And I think that's what scares people a lot, is they're worried of, oh my God, what could possibly come up. Like, I don't know what's going to come up. I don't like it. I feel out of control. And that's, again, this control issue that we all have because it doesn't feel safe. But I would say I've never had anything come up, and none of my students have ever had anything come up that they couldn't handle. Your subconscious is always going to protect you. The spirit universe world is always going to protect you. It's only going to give you what you're ready to work with and what you're ready to handle. And this is a great example because this version that came up, I literally would never have realized that she existed in a million years. It was tied to a very happy memory that I had. A very happy memory. So that was very interesting for me because I would never have guessed in a million years that there was a version of myself that had that. So what I did is, in this meditation, I just sat with her and I let her tell me all this, and I listened, and then I reassured her of, I understand why you feel that way. And that must have been really scary. I get that. That is understandable given the life that we had then. But I want you to know that you made the right decision. Everything's perfect. Nothing went wrong. And she just started crying. And then, because she's part of me, I started bawling on the plane. Like, I was just crying, but it was relief. It was this relief of, okay, I didn't fuck it up. I didn't make this mistake. And when you do this kind of shadow work, you can do it via journaling as well, like free writing. The thing I like about this is you go back in and rewrite a memory. So there's a subconscious reprogramming aspect to it. So I'm able to talk to this 23-year-old version of myself and rewrite the feelings that she's having there, to take them from a place of fear and anxiety of, I don't think I deserve this. I'm going to screw it up. I don't want to make a mistake here, to, this is the right decision. Everything worked out perfectly. I now feel relief. And it's almost like you will feel this whoosh of energy when it happens, when you get to that point, because you clear everything out. It's like whatever tether was holding you to that feeling and that memory is released and it's gone. So that is one way that you can do shadow work. As I mentioned, you can also do journaling. There's lots of journal prompts that you can find online for doing shadow work journaling. But at its core, what shadow work is simply reintegrating existing parts of yourself to be part of the whole in a healthy and mature way. But it's very cathartic and it's very healing. And right now is a really good period to do shadow work. I mean, I usually do it all through life, but I feel like especially during these introspective times, shadow work is very, very good. That was just the tip, but it ended up being like a lot. So I actually think I'm just gonna keep this one. Maybe it will be a mini. Are we gonna keep it short today? I feel like I might keep it a little short today and just save the other topic because I don't want to take away from the shadow work. I think it's really, really important work. Again, I don't want to say there's right and wrong ways to do it, because I ultimately feel in everything that whatever way works for you is the way that you should do it. But I will say shadow work is deep work. So maybe if you have to start by doing more surface level shadow work, that's a great way to get into it. But don't be afraid to do the deeper diving into it. Because that's where really big transformations happen, really big realizations happen. And I think I gave this analogy on the TT a couple months ago. There are a couple different types of people when it comes to this type of work, this kind of healing work, right? We're going to imagine there's a lake, okay? You're sitting on the dock. There's the people who sit on the dock and look at the lake and they go, I can't see what's in that lake. I'm not getting in there. So they just sit on the lake. They just watch the lake. They sit there. It's fine. Not a problem. That's how they want to be in life, right? Then there's people who look at the lake and they go, I kind of want to go in there, but I'm kind of scared about what's in there. So I'm just going to dip a toe in. And maybe over time they get used to the toe. Then they put in a foot and they put in their other foot. And then they slowly lower themselves in the pool. That happens. Some people will only ever dip a toe. And then there's people that tend to be the people that I really enjoy working with. It's very similar to how I deal with things. That's probably why. But there's people who stand on the dock and look at the lake and they go, I don't know what's in that lake, but I'm sure as hell going to find out. And they jump in the lake, full on cannonball into the lake. And what you'll find when you do that method is once you get in the lake, it feels great. And if there is stuff in there, it wants to hang out. It's friendly. It just wants somebody to play with. And you realize that everything that everyone or even yourself was really scared of in that lake is not scary because you can handle it. You can swim, right? And maybe I'm like that lifeguard on the side of the lake who's standing there with their lifesaver and also like at the same time yelling, "You got it. I'm only here for emergencies," you know. But if you're hearing the word shadow work a lot, I would say maybe check into it. I generally feel like things call to you when it's your time. So if you have found that you're hearing that word a lot, maybe just take a little look-see. Sometimes I like to bribe myself with stuff when I have to do something that's hard for me. Maybe this is something that works for you, but maybe go buy a pretty new journal or a pretty pen, or maybe you want to go buy some really pretty flowers to put wherever you like to journal so you have something pretty to look at while you do it. You can bribe yourself. It's not just kids who deserve to be bribed. I like to be bribed. Bribing is great. It's like a little carrot stick situation. It's my old boss used to talk about all the time. Is it the carrot or the stick? Which one works for you? I feel like they both work for me, but I might be a little bit more of a stick person. Maybe 50 Shades of Grey had a subconscious effect on me that I prefer a stick over a carrot. Jesus, this conversation just sounds so dirty. Let's do a card. Sorry, guys. Sorry, angels. Sorry, grandma, if you're listening. Okay, cards. Let's see. What's a card for today? Woo! There she is. Kitty cat spirit. Claim your independence. All right. So what I'm kind of feeling in the energy around this card is maybe there's something going on right now that is making you feel like you can't be independent. And I'm also getting the feeling that there's a couple connections to independence. It's not just being alone necessarily. It's more like following the beat of your own drum, doing things your way unapologetically as well. Like cats, if you know cats at all, they do what they want when they want, and they don't give a crap what you think about it, right? It's kind of that feeling that I'm getting here is something or someone, maybe even the energies right now, maybe it's you. There's something inside that's kind of making you feel like you can't do things that the way that you want to do them, or you're scared to kind of jump, leap, claim this version of yourself. And the kind of message that I'm getting around it is you have to take the first steps to do it in order for the universe to follow through for you, to support you, because they're waiting for you to decide if you're going to jump into it. When you jump, they jump, is what I'm hearing. It's like when you make a decision in that whatever, in a certain direction, and you decide that you're going to do it, they're going to go with you. But it feels like it's going to require work. It's going to require dedication. And it's not necessarily going to be easy, which is maybe why you're feeling like you're either not ready or you maybe aren't sure that you want to take this route. But the message is very much like there are no wrong decisions. There are no wrong roads that you can take, because it's either an opportunity or it's a lesson. Ooh, all right. So everything is either an opportunity or a lesson, and your perception of it is what determines it. I actually was just talking about this with a friend this afternoon, but the same thing can happen to two people and they can have two completely different experiences of it. So if you imagine you're going to a concert, for example, you go to a concert. One friend loved the concert. They were like, it was so loud. I could feel the vibrations in my body. The crowd was vibing up. I loved it. And the other person's like, I hated that. It was so loud. I could feel the vibrations in my body, and everyone was so like rowdy into it, and I couldn't just chill. So they're at the same place. They're experiencing the same external event, but they have two different perceptions of it. So the kind of thing here is, how are you perceiving this thing? Are you perceiving whatever you're considering as it's going to be really hard? It's going to be difficult. I'm going to have to work hard for it. Or are you perceiving it as, this is such a challenge. I'm going to get to grow from this. This is going to give me so many new learnings and knowledge that I can use for future things. It's the same step. It's two different ways of looking at it. And you are actually in charge of how you perceive something, because you can catch yourself thinking something is hard and switch. Tell yourself it's not hard. It's helping me to expand. If everything was easy, I would stay stuck in the same place. So with this card of claim your independence, it's this message of no matter what you choose, you will be supported, and how you experience that step that you're taking will depend on your own perception of that. Another example for context maybe is If you say, if there's something that you want to do and you think it's going to be really hard, and you say, I don't believe that I'm able to do that thing, or I don't have confidence to do that thing. If you flip it, you actually do have confidence. You just have confidence that you are going to fail at it. So what you need to do is place that confidence in yourself instead and flip it. There's this idea that the opposite is the medicine. The opposite is the lesson in this case, in what I'm getting through here, which I've been hearing a lot of. So I feel like it's a universal thing going around right now, but very much this idea of when you find a belief within yourself, flip it. And that's the medicine. That's the lesson. That's what you need to understand. And so if you're saying, I don't believe in myself, what you're actually saying is, I believe I'm going to fail. And that's the belief you need to get rid of. Because when you get rid of that belief and place it where it actually should be, which is, I believe in myself, that's when these kind of situations you're hesitant to start or hesitant to get into, you won't be hesitant anymore, because you'll know that you're confident in yourself, you've trust in the universe, whatever the steps are, whatever the outcome is, it's either going to be an opportunity or it's going to be a lesson, and both of those are equally valid in your life path. Lessons are redirections, they're clarity. Opportunities are obviously opportunities to align to your higher path and continue. So you can hear what I'm saying is this, they're the same thing. Your perception is what makes an opportunity or a lesson. Don't be afraid to claim your independence, whatever that means for you, if this resonates with you. Again, if this does not resonate, leave it. Thanks for listening. Follow me on the socials at jess.solstice, and tune in next week for a new interview episode on Tuesday. As I mentioned in the beginning, I have some really, really amazing guests lined up. I'm super excited to interview them from all different walks of life, coming on to tell us their stories, some of them spiritual, some of them more practical, and some of them are a mix. I hope that you have the most amazing, lovely rest of your week and weekend. Hang in there, kids. It always gets better.